Hey guys, this is James.
Hey, this is Meat.
You might remember him from previous InBetweenIsode. So we are here for special InBetweenIsode number 69. As you can tell, we have kind of a unique setup. This is the first time that I've done this before. So we are boiling some white tea right here. So check that out. That's getting nice and dark. So I'm going to take it off just so this doesn't get too bitter.
Nice.
So we are reviewing a Tea of the Month club here from W2T. So this is a tea club where you get an array of stuff each month, and it might be ripe pu'erh, it might be raw pu'erh, it might be some oolong. In this case, we are looking at some ripe pu'erh and some aged white tea from 2008.
Looks good. I would have to say this is the first time for me as well.
Yep.
Looks pretty interesting. I'm kind of excited about this.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to start with this white tea. As you guys can see, visually I was showing it. You kind of have this really dark color. So I'm not sure, maybe we'll add some more water to this afterwards and put it back on and just see how it is.
Mm-hmm.
Supposedly it's sort of like a home remedy for a cold, apparently, that the Chinese do.
Right on. It says it's a Gong Fu style brewing. Is that what it's called?
Gong Fu style is what we normally do with the gaiwan. So,
okay.
So this is the just straight up boiling the leaves.
All right.
So I've done Gong Fu style on this tea once, and it was pleasant enough. So this is my second go around on it. So W2T Club is one of those clubs where you spend some amount per month. You spend $30 per month, and you basically get whatever teas that he sends. Sometimes it's stuff that he offers on the site, like the Old Reliable. He sells on W2T.com.
Okay.
And other times it's stuff that's a little bit unique and different to try. So like this aged white tea from 2008. So, yeah.
The color looks good for the tea.
Yeah.
I mean, I noticed since the beginning that we've been boiling it, and it was clear color, and then it's graduated to this.
Exactly. And Meat and I were actually not sure how long we were supposed to boil it for. So it said, how long did it say to do it for? It said,
10 minutes? Or?
It said go until it was dark, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. The color's dark, and add more water to continue brewing.
Yep. So
interesting.
If it's good, we'll add some water.
Yeah.
What are you gonna say?
I was just saying the leaves have not all broken apart. Like there's still a big chunk there, right? Am I wrong?
I think you might be right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see there's just a big chunk of leaves. So I tossed about 9 grams into here, and I'm brewing about 30 ounces or so. I'm not even totally sure, but the color it just slowly got a little bit darker and darker. So this is a different style of brewing than I'm used to. So I'm eager to just try this out.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers. So it's still very hot.
Yes.
In terms of liqueur. So maybe we'll wait for a second to sip that down. It tastes a little bit different from what you would be used to versus like, I don't know, your Silver Needles or something where you're brewing at a lower temperature or something. So we're going to wait for a second to let that cool down.
Yeah, definitely. Seems very light so far.
Mm-hmm.
Very light compared to like the oolongs and pu'erhs that I've tasted, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't had a whole lot of white tea, so I'm kind of curious. The only one I've had is white jasmine, I believe.
Okay, which would obviously be very different from this. Yeah. And so usually one of the nice things about this club is that, there's going to be a lot of people that are drinking the same teas, so it's kind of like a fun, different thing that you can sort of like be like, oh, what did people think of this tea versus this tea, because you're just kind of having a very coordinated tasting versus like, oh, I'll order what's interesting to me.
That's great. I like the idea of it. It kind of gets out a lot of people's opinions, and it's kind of around the same time, so the tea is kind of processed similar, and you get a lot more collaboration.
Exactly.
What people think.
And some of the times, like, this is a tea that I would never have ordered. for instance. So is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? Well, there are good aspects to it and there are bad aspects to it. Like the good being that like you know you can have interesting and new experiences like this.
Yeah.
For sure, and the bad part being that like well it might not be exactly what you want every time. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it's like a great club for someone that really likes to pick and choose what they're getting, or if they even want to save the most money. Mm-hmm. I think the value that you get from the tea will probably be a little bit under the $30 a month mark, but it's a good way to just, you know, slowly get your tea and try some interesting and different stuff.
I agree. I think it would be something like this would be a great option, or I mean, for someone like me, this would be a great option, because I don't tend to go out and try a lot of different new teas, you know, mm-hmm. and I like the idea of somebody just handpicking mm-hmm. a couple of different teas that I may or may not like, and then
be like, oh,
yeah, and you know, you have sort of a set budget for this, you know, it's $30 a month.
Yep.
And then
you get your box.
Yep. You're set.
Yep, exactly. All right. Well, I think this tea is cooled down, so let's have a sip or two. Yeah. So it still tastes like a white tea. It's kind of got an interesting texture. Mm-hmm. You're mainly a oolong drinker, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So definitely just very, very light taste actually compared to what I'm used to. I'm kind of having hard to find the flavor. Mm-hmm. Finding it hard to.
I think with white tea especially, like, it has a very distinctive feel in the mouth. It's kind of like deceptively light. I want to call it like sort of like silky. Mm-hmm. Is how it sort of like develops in your mouth.
I agree. It's it feels I don't know, somewhat cooling actually.
Interesting.
Surprisingly.
Interesting. I will look out for that in this one. Sort of like has sort of like a cooling minty sensation in the mouth.
A little bit, very light one, but it's there.
So you could see it's orange, and you know if we kept brewing this, it'd probably brew all the way into like a dark red. Maybe that's where you want to get it. I'm not really sure. We're definitely playing this by feel here. Do you get any bitterness or anything like that?
Not really. No, it's very light taste, and it's something I've never had before. So I'm definitely enjoying it. Mm-hmm. It's very easy to drink. It's very pleasant. Very light flavor, personally. But
yeah. You say this is like something that's very new for you to drink. It's definitely like something that I'm not drinking regularly either.
Right.
Yeah, it tastes kind of like white tea that I'm used to, but also at the same time different, and part of that's from the brewing, and part of it just because it's a little bit older. Nice. So this is a little bit hotter.
Mm-hmm. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think about it? Where do you land on this tea?
Yeah.
That's kind of always hard to decide the first time you try something out. Like after a few trials.
Exactly.
You might get a better idea. But would this be something that you would have maybe semi-regularly or not too often, or just about as usual as how you have the other teas? Where would you fall on this?
Yeah, this tea, I don't think it's something that I would drink really regularly. Mm-hmm. I think it's a nice change of pace, and it might be an interesting tea to have with guests that might be interested in trying something a little bit different or unique. Because it's different than it's different than like a pu'er or a caked pu'er, even though this was caked as well. It's different than oolong, and it's a little bit different than your standard white teas too. So, kind of it could be it's a decent tea on its own right, but it also has sort of like a novelty appeal in some sense of just like this is like a different way that you can do your tea beyond the just sort of standard gong fu style.
I agree. Yeah. It definitely makes it a very simple way of going about things as far as brewing the tea and drinking it goes. You can you can make a whole bunch of it and then
Mm-hmm.
just go through it, throughout your next couple hours.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I would say comparison to like a normal white tea, which will usually brew up more of a translucent, lighter color.
Yeah.
This is sort of has a deeper, I don't totally want to say earthy, but like bassier feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of got like some of those lower tones in
Yeah,
the
definitely.
taste. Yeah.
I agree with that, actually. Those were probably the words I was looking for a little bit, but...
Yeah, it's a hard one to describe. But yeah, the more I have it, the more I think that's sort of like how I would place it, at least the way that we've done it so far. Yeah. All right, well, we are going to be right back with the second part of this episode. We will be Gung Fu styling the Old Reliable. So,
nice.
See you guys in a bit. All right, so we are back for the second part of InBetweenIsode 69. Special episode InBetweenIsode 69, the W2T Club. So what are we doing now? You want to hold that up for us?
Yeah, let's do it. So we have the old-fashioned, standard, traditional pu'er tea.
Yeah.
Ripe pu'er.
The Old Reliable.
Old Reliable.
From W2T and Sons.
And how big is this cake? This is 200 gram cake.
Yep. So this is included in the tea club for this month. This cake, you can buy it on W2T. It sells for around $15 for 200 grams. So, pretty reasonable price. It's a ripe pu'er. It's he bought the materials himself. Yeah, you can go ahead and open that up.
Smells very nice. I don't know how much you can tell from just smelling a cake, but I like the. I don't know how well they can see through this. But.
Oh, they can probably see a little bit at least.
Yeah. So here's a cake, very, very nicely formed, and this is probably the place where you've taken chunks out.
Yep. So you can see I've made my way through a good chunk of the cake already. So I find that the cake is, about what you would expect from a cake called the Old Reliable. It's nothing crazy special, but it's $15 for 200 grams, and I find it to be pretty damn good for the price. So. I'm just going to stack infusions here. So we're not going to go 1 infusion, 2 infusion. We're using larger cups here, so we're just going to have at it.
Nice.
So, I'll do 2 and then smell. And do you ever drink ripe pu'er meat?
I was just going to say that I normally don't drink any pu'er when I'm by myself. It's mostly when I hang out with you is when I try different kinds of pu'ers. And I think before we left for our Taiwan trip, smells nice. In October, it was funny because I couldn't even differentiate between the raw and ripe pu'er, and it took me. After going to Taiwan and just trying a bunch of raw pu'er and ripe pu'ers, I was able to finally be able to tell it apart.
Yeah.
That's raw pu'er.
Well,
that's ripe.
I mean, usually to learn those sorts of things, you just gotta get in there and drink it a bunch.
That's right.
Yep. It's probably pretty hot right now.
Yes.
So you can see
some nice dark color.
Yeah. So. The cups that are in our that meat's holding right there, it's brewing up sort of an amber there, but you can see that the liqueur for the third steep has gotten even darker. Kind of what we'd expect for ripe pu'er. Yeah, it'll get darker, and then eventually it'll start to lighten up a little bit more too. Yep, and we are actually filming this on Super Bowl Sunday. So who's your pick, Meat?
Oh, man.
Well, at this point, you'll probably look really dumb if you pick the wrong team because everyone knows who won.
I'll go with Panthers. I mean,
that's who
everybody seems to favor Cam Newton.
Yeah.
I think he's done well this season.
Yeah. Yeah. Over Old Man Manning.
Over Old Man Manning.
Yeah. So, like Meat said, it sort of has a sweet, pleasant, typical smell for a ripe pu'er.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's,
yeah.
I'm ready to dive in.
Yeah.
If you are.
Cheers.
Awesome. Cheers.
What do you think?
It's very good. I think. Again, I might be wrong about this, but it's one of the lighter ripe pu'er teas that I've tried actually. Very very clean, kind of. Not very grainy or.
So it doesn't have like bad ripe pu'er, for instance, like stuff that you would have at dim sum or whatever.
Yeah.
Can sort of taste just sort of dirty or whatever.
Yeah. It definitely doesn't have that.
Yeah, I like that. I think describing this as clean is pretty apt. I think overall it's very smooth too. There's not a lot of roughness in these leaves at all. There's not a lot of funk, so there's very little that like tastes bad about this tea. It's smooth. I think it's reasonably thick for a ripe pu'er as well. Yeah, I find it to be old and reliable.
It's got very light bitter notes also so far, so I kind of like that too. At this very first tasting, I feel like this would be, if you didn't drink so much pu'er, this would be like a good place to get into, or if you hadn't tried a lot.
Yeah. No, I think that's correct.
I mean, between the price point and the flavor, it makes it seems like an easy choice to try out.
Yeah, I mean, it's so cheap, $15 for 200 grams. I mean, that's a very reasonable price to ask. And you mentioned that it being like sort of lightly bitter or whatever. So you could see here that the leaves were sort of getting a brownishness to them. So these leaves will, like, to tell sort of the difference between like the lighter fermentation, which will have more of those bitter notes, and the darker ones, you can inspect the leaves after you brew it out. And usually if it's been more heavily fermented, the leaves will remain just really, really dark, like black dark. But because this is a little bit lighter, you can see that, some of the leaves are darker than others, but a lot of the leaves are lightening up and turning sort of like a brown color. So I think that it is sort of something that's sort of at the light to medium fermentation level. So it's interesting that you picked up on that. All right, well, I'm going to dive into steep number 3 and 4. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I'm interested in seeing how this tastes as well. It's a little bit darker.
Exactly.
Let's see how much stronger it is compared to the first session.
Yep. Yeah. And we would expect it to be a little bit stronger, just by kind of the eye test of the liqueur.
Yep.
Yeah. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
It's definitely stronger, I think. Thicker even, and I think that bitterness is even more pronounced.
Yeah. But even at that level, I think it's at a very acceptable level of bitterness. It's not something that kind of would offend a normal drinker, perhaps.
Yeah. And this is not like a bitter tea like raw pu'er is bitter. It's just a very, very light bitterness to it. So I don't think it's anything that would rub people the wrong way or anything like that.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. So of these two teas, they're very different. Which one do you think you would potentially drink more of?
I think I prefer the ripe pu'er. I think I could drink the ripe pu'er a lot more often. I like it. I would go for it if I had it, just lying around, if I'd bought this, as opposed to the white tea.
Yeah, which is more of like a if you really feel like it. Yeah.
The white tea is more maybe once every week, maybe even less, maybe once every 2 weeks or something like that.
Or maybe if you want to impress like a girl on a date, maybe the white tea is a good one.
That is true.
Yeah,
that's true. It's a good tea.
And you could show her this episode and be like, "Look, I'm on the YouTubes.
I'm on the YouTubes."
Yeah. Yeah. So, that I think that just about wraps up this InBetweenIsode. So thank you, Meat, for appearing on here.
Hey, thanks for having me too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Allowing me to try some good teas.
Yeah.
That's great.
So, again, the W2T Club, check it out at W2T.com. They're a monthly club, so you get your monthly packages. You can subscribe or unsubscribe. They don't have you sign a contract where you need to sign it and be on the club for a year or anything like that.
That's nice.
And I think it's a cool way to. I think it's a good one for people that are new to tea, new to pu'er, and want to sort of explore that world as well.
I agree.
Yeah.
Is this something you've been doing, or you plan on continuing to do?
I
review every month's tea or teas.
I don't know. Is that something you guys would be interested in? Let me know in the comments. I'm not sure.
I would be interested.
You would be interested.
There we
go.
go.
Well, maybe I'll have you on to review the next month's shipment, which
For
is
sure.
which is already on. So, thank you guys for watching, and cheers.